This leak has fundamentally changed the way I view Illuvium and the entire Illuvium ecosystem. I don't know if it does the exact same thing for you, but honestly, it should. I've been looking at Illuvium wrong this entire time, and I'm going to go over some of my thoughts and feelings and why I think you guys actually really need to know all this too, because this will change the way you view it. Not only is it beyond bullish, but it's just going to realign some of the perspectives, realign some of the expectations, because I still expect Illuvium to be one of the largest gaming studios of all time, but the way I was looking at how that comes to be was completely wrong. And so I'm going to share some of my thoughts on that while you guys view some of my really interesting Illuvium gameplay, and then we will go from there. Play. All right, there we go. So this is how I used to see Illuvium, and anyone who's been watching my channel for a long time already knows this, and maybe there's still a hint of this left, but for the most part, the way I see video games in general has changed quite a bit. I used to think that we need 1 million players to make Illuvium the best thing ever, or to make it a sleeper hit, or the biggest game in the world, or whatever it might be. And we need to reach mass adoption to do so, not only to fund the DAO in perpetuity, but to make sure that everyone loves the game even more, because the more players there are in something, the more attached you get to it. I also thought that we needed to be the biggest crypto game. Now, we objectively are. I mean, Wilder World's pretty solid, but Illuvium still is the biggest Web3 crypto game, but honestly, that doesn't actually matter that much. I know many that probably have more players than Illuvium does, but they don't have the money and they're not really generating revenue. And so player numbers and revenue are two completely different things, and we do need to consider that, but I did used to think that being the biggest ever crypto game is going to make people want to play it, which is simply not true. If it's not the style that people like, even if it has the most players, then they're not going to play it. And so it doesn't actually matter that much. Sure, it helps a little bit with things like marketing and stuff like that, but it goes both ways. Some people might be like, oh, that's the biggest game ever. That means I'm behind. I don't want to jump in behind. I'm going to find something new. And that happens with all sorts of different things, not just video games and not just Web3 in general. Okay. So here is now where my head is at. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of a narrative here, but there's a lot of elements that are much more important to me now, and I honestly think should be more important to you as well as an investor, player, airdrop farmer, whoever you might be. And the first one of these is stickiness. Illuvium hasn't had any stickiness up until this latest beta. It just hasn't. And stickiness might just be the #1 fundamental thing that is crucial to a game being successful. Now, you can say there are obvious exceptions. Palworld, albeit sticky for about a month, is no longer sticky, and their concurrent player numbers show that off quite well. That being said, they generated enough revenue to make 3 more games. The problem is, are all those 3 games going to be one hit, going to be successful for their first month as well? It's not easy to build a game like Palworld, especially when they use some of the other elements of engines they had built in the past and their overall experience. Making a game that lasts the test of time is way more difficult than building something like Palworld. That's just the reality of it. So making sure the game is sticky to players and sticky to communities is crucial. And that is really difficult to do, but Illuvium has finally started to get there. Now, maybe there are lots of people that are already heavily invested and everyone's playing because of the airdrop. We don't know that for sure. All we know is that even before airdrop details were announced, and in general, people have been playing the Illuvium overworld way more often, like day to day, than they have any of the previous betas, any of the other Illuvium games. Maybe it's not more sticky than something like Pixels, I don't know, even though Pixels probably has a lot of bots. Again, I don't know. But making sure the game is sticky is very, very important. The other thing is that revenue won't come day one, especially with all the SRV2 floating around, but revenue comes after people fall in love. For example, I played 10, 20 different crypto games this year, maybe. I've spent money on, I think, 2 of them, not including Illuvium and its many things. I spent money on Guild of Guardians because I really enjoyed the game and I wanted to get to the end of it. And I spent money on Heroes of Mavia because I really enjoy the game and wanted to keep progressing it just a little bit faster. I didn't need to spend much, but I did spend money because I really liked those games. All the other crypto games, it's very hard for me to get consistently spend money without any expectation of return. That's very important there. People have to fall in love with a game, its IP, and its gameplay before they're going to spend money because they know it's a long-term commitment. Illuvium is building that long-term commitment for a lot of people, but it's really important that they might not spend money day one, or they might not spend much at all. But once they're like, okay, I want to play this game for the next 2 or 3 years and just really get lost in it, I might as well drop $1,000 over the next 2 years, and people will do that, but they have to enjoy the game first. And so that is the key driver to revenue. Not many crypto games have that, but many of them do. And I look forward to seeing where they take that. The next thing is that Illuvium's IP is the king in all of Web3 gaming, and making sure they keep it that way is important. I think the cinematic trailer was a good factor to this, where it really let people delve into the story and get get immersed in all of it, and they need more of that. I know the team is building out those sorts of systems, so I'm really looking forward to what they come up with, but having more of that is going to be quite important. The other thing is that building strong communities is critical. Thankfully, Illuvium has built a very strong community over the past 3 years. Without it, Illuvium will not be a success. Thankfully, we have that though, so there's not too much to worry about. The beauty is that the game and the airdrop and the marketing and everything is growing that community really steadily, and people that are coming in to join that community are staying for long periods of time. We can even see that from things like the hunting events. They're growing each and every week. Your chance to win them is identical, but new players are getting up to the point where they want to participate, and they are participating in guild-led and Illuvium-led events. And so the community is not only strong, but it's growing because, again, I believe the game is more sticky than it has ever been. Maybe it's not perfect, but it is more sticky than it has ever been. Now, here's the next one, and this relates back to the leak a little bit better. Illuvium can build on its current games easily. Now, sometimes I've been doubtful of this very fact. That's perfectly fine. I'm like, oh, I want this update in 1 month, but it takes them like 3 months, and that's fine. They're building a lot of things concurrently, so really we are getting a bunch of new stuff every single month. It's just not a bunch of new stuff in Overworld every single month. It might be Overworld 1 month, Arena 1 month. You know what I mean? So it jumps between them, so it doesn't feel like it's fast sometimes, but it really is. It has been proven by that leak. Not only did they get Alluvials in the Overworld, now you have a partner Alluvial in the Overworld, which is really cool. If they can pull it off, that is going to be a big deal for Illuvium. It has also been proven by Gauntlet having a proof of concept and coming before the launch of the open beta. It should be here in a few weeks. Gauntlet is going to change the way Illuvium operates completely. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. The other thing is that major overhauls have come to Ascendant. We got about 2 or 3 major patches through the life of Ascendant, which is not even that long. I'm pretty sure Ascendant came out to all at like the end of 2023. Let's say October, November. We got 2 or 3 major updates over the course of 6-7 months, which is really cool, especially since we got all the big Overworld updates as well. They are iterating so quickly, it's insane. We should get new Alluvials quickly. We'll get new game modes quickly. We'll get new weapons and their upgrades quickly. We'll get new ore types and things to build for our drone maybe, or new skins will come out. The team has proven they can do that, and that is very important when it comes to retention in general. New content always brings back players. The more new content you release, the better. Obviously, you can also overdo it, and the sorts of new content is important. Like, not everyone cares about new cosmetics, for example, but it's a big deal that the team is big enough and now has been doing this for long enough that they can pull that off. And it's why Illuvium is going to stand the test of time. No matter what anyone says or anyone tries to FUD it, I believe that. I think Illuvium has got this in the bag. Let's put it that way. So, on all of that, the key takeaway is Illuvium ultimately needs to build and grow slowly. I used to think, let's get 1 million players on day one. Now, what I think is, let's have the daily users increase over time. It doesn't matter how many of them there are. If we've got 5,000 players one day and 5,100 players the next day, and then 5,200 after that, now, obviously, the faster the better. I mean, and it's eventually going to come down. But as long as the people that are playing aren't bailing, that's what matters the most. Maybe we have a lot of people that come, try it for a few hours and leave. That's fine too. But as long as the overall player retention is increasing and we have more and more players coming back every single day, that is what's going to make Illuvium a success. And that's what's going to get even more people to join too. People are like, oh, there's like 10,000 active players every single day. Maybe I will have to check this out, especially when you start to add multiplayer functions. I don't mind Big Time. I think it's actually a pretty cool game. I just don't love it. But really, that was the biggest issue I had with Big Time. Being in the Australian time zone, I'd jump into the servers that'd all be empty. I'd be like, well, this game is kind of sucks as a solo player. And so I bailed, right? And so having an active player base and a lot of volume in all the different ranked modes is crucial. And again, Gauntlet's going to help with that so much, you have no idea. So the next thing is Illuvium's monetization. I still believe that Illuvium's current monetization setup is a strength and not a weakness. The only issue we had with it is, despite what the team wants me to believe, I don't think T0 is fun. The stage 0 runs, they're just not that fun. They're not that good. So even though it's kind of like a tutorial or a demo run, which is great, I don't think it's necessarily going to bring anyone into Illuvium to play. People need to fall in love with the IP and the gameplay and everything else before they go, okay, I want to spend $100 this month on Illuvium. They need to do all that. I don't think stage 0 runs where you find tier 0 alluvials and all that for free. I don't think that was going to achieve that. I really don't. It's the combination of that and Gauntlet, which is a free-to-play auto battler game that anyone can play, will be really casual friendly, no team builder, just really easy for anyone to jump into. And they go, these characters are really cool, but that person has a Holo Atlas. How do I get one of them? That, in combination with trying out stage 0 runs, getting involved in the Discord and other events that are free for anyone to participate in, that's when they fall in love. That's when they play every day. And then that's when they spend money on the game. And I think Illuvium, with the addition of these new features that are coming, are about to hit that sweet spot. And that sweet spot is what's going to make Illuvium its first $1 million in revenue from the Illuvium overworld. The other thing when it comes to monetization, which I feel is very important and a lot of people tend to forget, is people stay engaged when they have a sunk cost. Forcing people to pay for the game is not that big of a deal. Many people won't, and that's fine. But those that do, they're going to keep coming back and keep spending because they're like, okay, now I'm invested in this game. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep playing to make sure I get my money's worth, kind of a thing. And they will. And there's a little bit of elements of that. That's not that important. But it really is the fact that, like, it's a lot easier to leave a free game. And it's why you see 1,000 new mobile games get made every single day, is because most of them are free and people play for them for 20 minutes and say, this isn't for me, I'm out. Or they play them for 30 minutes and they go, oh, this other one looks cool, I'm going to try that. And they try like 10 of the same genre and they pick one. Or they pick one until they find a better one. You know, right? They have no loyalty to those things. And playing them for free is one of those reasons. For example, if you jump into a game like Elden Ring, for example, and you got the game for free, and you have trouble on that first boss and it kills you like 20 times, you're like, oh, all right, just uninstall, right? But if you pay $80 to buy Elden Ring, I think it's different in the US, 80 Australian maybe, I don't know. If you pay $80 to buy Elden Ring and then you jump into the game and this boss kills you 20 times, you're like, oh, shit, I don't want to like take this back to the store. I don't want to uninstall it. I paid for this thing. Let's see if I can beat this. Let's see if I can improve. And then you start watching videos, you start looking up other guides, you practice different weapons. It forces you to get deeper into the game. Then you beat it and you're like, this was the best thing ever. Can't wait to reach the next boss. And that's how I feel about gaming personally. And I know I'm not alone, even if it's deep in some people's psychology, that's how I think it works. And Illuvium's going to capture that quite well. Not perfectly, but quite well if you ask me. And so the last point in all this is that the combination of all these new things, overworld combat, partner alluvials, gauntlet, free-to-play auto battler, the overworld iterating quickly, new alluvials, it builds on the IP at every step of the way. And as soon as you've got someone that's dedicated, devoted, and falls in love with the IP, maybe it's not for life, but it's going to be for a long time that they stick around. And as that number of people that sticks around grows, and the word of mouth helps that as well, then Illuvium is going to be the biggest game in history.